The next generation of professional wrestling unfolds through a brand new series called WWE Evolve on Tubi TV. WWE, it's a little bit of women of wrestling. It's a little bit of NXT Junior, if you will. You remember back in the day when you had Nickelodeon and Nick Jr.? We got NXT now, and we got NXT Junior in WWE Evolve. But don't let that moniker fool you. We actually got the WWE ID program being used on WWE TV, on free TV on Tubi TV. Are you ready? Let's get in. I'm your host, Bryan, the Hype Ballard. Back at it again. We're going to talk about WWE Evolve. Did it work? Is it worth the watch? And which stars do I see that stood out the most on this debut show? And could they be future NXT stars or even main roster someday? We'll talk a little bit about that. We get Shawn Michaels immediately giving his stamp of approval on the brand. And next to him is General Manager of NXT, Ava. HBK welcomes the young wrestlers. He announces his booking matches for the night. And he mentions that the women will take place in the very first WWE Evolve match. But we do get the men that are going to main event. And we have a nice, quick little brief, introduction with all of them in a room. And you think it's going to be a reality-based TV show, but then it does go into in-ring action. Peter Rosenberg is your announcer along with Robert Stone. And then also as our commentators. And then the section basically just talks about Evolve. We get into our first matchup, which pits a tag match. Kendall Gray with Carly Bright versus Kaylee Armstrong and Danny Palmer. Give you a little bit of what's going on here. Kendall Gray and Carly Bright looking like the more solidified tag team, but we find out that tag teams aren't as strong as we think in WWE Evolve. Kendall Gray definitely came off and impressed me, and she is very clearly one of the shining stars of there, a collegiate athlete, a women in actual amateur wrestling, also did judo and jiu-jitsu since the young age of 12. I can relate to that. And also we have her tag mate, Carly Bright, meant to be kind of the best friend of the strong Kendall Gray, versus Kaylee Armstrong, who is a very typical power wrestler, but with a lot of personality. And then we have Danny Palmer. Danny Palmer is the tumbler, collegiate tumbler of the matchup. Palmer meant to do some of the high spots in the match and give a little bit of a lucha libre type style, if you will, to a little bit of high flying action in this first ever matchup. So we got power, we got entertainment, and we got a little lucha going on. Let's see who wins. Palmer does a backflip as a part of her entrance, really showcasing that as they come out. And I always enjoy that. This reminds me a little bit of Level Up, also from the WWE show that previous it was, I believe, canceled. Kaylee Armstrong being a track athlete and basically ultimately being kind of the personality of this one. Armstrong ultimately goes into the top rope, into the corner, and just pats her opponent on the head, entertaining. She knows how to play to the camera very well, and she knows how to play to the crowd. And they do their work. Kendall Gray being a feature here, but Palmer makes the blind tag, and Gray works the arm. We get a tag to Carly Bright, and she gets a sunset foot for a 2 count. They fight on the backslide, and the Bright wins the battle and gets another 2 count. Palmer with an arm drag, but Bright counters into a head scissors, and Palmer flips into a pin attempt. This matchup, we get a little bit of back and forth, but it ultimately does end with all women getting to showcase their talent. And it ends with them brawling on the outside, but Danny Palmer goes for a very top rope spinning moonsault on all the competitors, taking out her own tag partner, as it will be. Palmer then led to the inside, and she eventually, we do get her taking the pin to Kendall Gray. Kendall Gray hitting what's called go for a sliced bread, but Gray hits a spear, and Armstrong is back up to break the pin, and here's Gray. Ultimately, we do get Palmer tapping out to Kendall Gray as she hits a flying armbar and gets the submission, showing off those MMA skills. At the end, we do get an interview with Palmer, or Carly Bright, and Kendall Gray. Ultimately, we get Carly Bright talking about what a great team they are. We get Kendall Gray kind of looking a little bit like she did all the work in this matchup. And then she takes the mic and says very clearly she's not looking to be a part of a great team. She's looking to, when people think of WWE Evolve, we think of Kendall Gray. I would say after this matchup, we did get to a point where Kendall Gray stuck out the most for me. She was the most well featured on the matchup. But I gotta say, something did stand out for Armstrong as well in this matchup. But overall, everybody did their parts, and it didn't overstay its welcome at the 12-minute mark. And we move on. We get into some backstage segments. We get a little bit of history of Evolve as a brand. We get a little bit of a talk about how it is linked to the likes of Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, who did compete in Evolve. But we do get then a video package of one half of our main event. We get Jackson Drake meeting Swipe Right, the tag team, the heel tag team. And ultimately, we're looking at to kind of Swipe Right, pandering to the younger WWE crowd. We also get their opponents in a backstage segment. We get Jack Cartwheel. You guys might remember Jack Cartwheel from a AEW match on AEW Saturday nights. We ultimately did get a Jack Cartwheel appearance in a tag match, and I remember that him sticking out. He did a lot of cartwheels around his opponent in there. Did he improve in WWE Evolve? We get Sean Legacy and Cappuccino Jones. Everything has to do with coffee and high energy with Cappuccino Jones. Maybe he's worth a shot. Lots of puns like that in his promos. They talk, they get excited, but then we go over to the next matchup, which is Keanu Carver going against Trill London. Keanu Carver, he is the mix of alpha male Monty Brown meets Biggie Langston. Ultimately, if I was to blend those two wrestlers together, I feel like we get an alpha male Monty Brown and Biggie Langston combo with Keanu Carver. Rosenberg mentions London was a former cornerback for the Miami Dolphins. Trill London actually gave up for a WWE career. He gave up an NFL roster spot, according to the legend here. He's obsessed with horror movies. We get little facts in the matchup. That's one thing I did like to help us get to know some of the wrestlers in here. We get all the information. Ultimately, this does end up being a bit of a one-sided matchup, as we do get Keanu Carver easily taking care of Trill London in a minute 38. We see a quick London, and ultimately my alpha male Monty Brown comparison comes very true, as Keanu Carver does smash with a pounce, which we have not seen. And a pounce really works because he did play football for the University of Temple. So one of the owls of the best to be able to hit. And then he hits a sky-high spine buster to ultimately finish off Trill London. The 1, the 2, the 3. We then get a VIP section shown in the audience, and I will say audience loosely. It is about 1 to 2 rows of people around the ring. I don't know where you're going to watch WWE Evolve shows, but I almost wonder if this was other roster members that was helping fill in the crowd. But we get a VIP section. We get a member of the D'Angelo family, in addition to GAL, another competitor at ringside, posing behind Keanu Carver, trying to just steal some of the spotlight a little bit. And then we get an interview with them. But we get to our main event, the 6-man ID showcase. Jack Cartwheel, Cappuccino Jones, and Sean Legacy playing the faces versus Swipe Right, which is Brad Baylor and Ricky Smokes, who met at a college party and decided to form a tag team in the WWE, and Jackson Drake joining and fitting right in for good measure. We do get this matchup to showcase, and it will be the final matchup of the evening. As mentioned, all of these are new guys overall to the WWE brand. And yes, Cappuccino brought a cappuccino drink with him to the ring, as it's all about the coffee. The crowd starts chanting "swipe left." We don't know if this is a baited chant or a natural chant in these kind of environments. However, we do start with Jones and Ricky Smokes, and we get a backdrop by Jones, and then he catches Baylor with a dropkick. Legacy and Drake are in, and Legacy gets a standing moonsault for a 1 and a 2. Cartwheel gets his way into the match. He does a split to duck a clothesline, and then we're told that his great-grandmother invented the cartwheel. Jack Cartwheel, we now know, has the legacy of the person that invented the cartwheel. But Stone doesn't believe it. Ultimately, this is commentary meant to entertain. All 6 men are in the ring and they stare down each other and they go back and forth and they fight a little bit more in this one. A lot of action, a lot of showcasing of everybody's skills, and another tag match. This one for the guys tonight. And then we do get a nice little spot with a triple dive to the floor for the faces as we head over to a break. We come back from commercial, come back, and then Drake is back in the ring and in charge. And overall, some time has passed in the commercial break. Swipe right hits a double suplex on Cartwheel for a 1 and a 2. We do get a lot of Cartwheel action. We get some tornado DDTs. Legacy is in, and so is Smokes. And Legacy gets a belly-to-back suplex and sends a backflip with a scorpion death drop. Very nice combo right there. Then we get Jones in. Cappuccino Jones gets a decaffeinator is what they called his finishing move, and he comes off the top rope with a frog splash, but Baylor makes the save. Legacy and Baylor are in. Legacy gets a running boot. Baylor with a DDT. Everyone starts just hitting every move possible, and Cartwheel eats a double stomp from Baylor. Legacy hits a double drop kick on Swipe right. Legacy hits Baylor with an inverted double A into a neck breaker for the pinfall. The 1, the 2, the 3, just shy of 12 minutes in this one. We get our winners. We get Jack Cartwheel, Shawn Legacy, and the very alert Cappuccino Jones. Ultimately, that is WWE Evolve, but don't let it end there. Go ahead and hit that like button. It kind of helps people get the awareness of these young stars out in the community as covering Evolve and seeing a little what we have a little more. Check us out on the fansofprowrestling.com as well. But let's talk about WWE Evolve and the final thoughts. Here's the final thoughts. It is a light version of NXT, and 3 matches were showcased, and I like the format. It's free on Tubi TV. It's got a way to showcase about 12 minutes on a couple matches with a 2-minute squash match mixed in there, meant to build up Carver. Ultimately, it did showcase and give everybody enough time to really showcase their skills, and the 2 tag format matches were different enough in a trios tag and a standard tag for the women, and it gave us a little bit of exposure to a lot of stars. The WWE did the little things right. They added pop-ups on the screen, giving us fun facts about the wrestlers, because let's be honest, not a lot of us have heard of these guys, maybe even before WWE Evolve. And don't come into the comments telling me you were a Jack Cartwheel fan for life. We're learning, along with the rest of the IWC, who these guys are. But it was a fun time just to kind of sit back and watch something a little different. It is very small and a very house show, mini house show type vibe. But check out some different stars, and who knows, we might see them on an NXT roster someday. Overall, that's my thoughts on the first episode. I'll check out the second one very soon enough and give you my thoughts on that as well. I'm out.